Steps toward resilience. Steps that reduce fear. That's right, resilience. Getting you to be able to handle things. You know what? Fear can nag at you, or it can leave your heart pounding. The bad news is that there's no way to resolve all your fears. After all, fear is part and parcel of life. Fear is an alert reaction to danger. Thus, even if all of today's fears were to vanish, you'd still have another batch tomorrow. In fact, as the world becomes more complex, the kinds of fears you're going to need to deal with are likely to continue to grow and expand. So what you really need is not a way to eliminate your existing fears today. Instead, what you need is to develop a way to reduce fear, handle fear, and build resilience in you on a one day at a time, one moment by moment type of basis. It is challenging to cope with fear. And reducing fear, handling fear, and building resilience may not be easy for you, but you can do it. It's a challenge that will help you grow and learn to enjoy your life one day at a time. For some of those fears that nag at you, you're going to have to prepare yourself to take action and then act. Any one step toward preparing yourself for action might not feel good at first. Taking a concrete step to deal with fear, whatever that step might be, is likely to feel a bit scary. So I suggest you pick something easy. That's right, easy. That's where to start. Whatever's easiest. So what's an easy first step for you? For example, does making a list of a few of your fears feel doable? If so, then making a list of what fears are uppermost in your mind is one such step. The idea is to choose a simple step for you. If writing down your fears is too much for you, then come up with something else that's smaller and easier for you. The reason I suggest making a list is that it gives you a place to start. Writing down your fears and then putting away the list can give you a way of recognizing what's happening to you. Owning a list can help you realize that your fears are finite and reasonable. For example, if something's happened to you before, you might feel fear that it's going to happen again. If you feel up to it, write down a few fears that trouble you. Write down at least 3, but not more than 10. As you write these fears, don't focus too much on them. Just write them down as a way of acknowledging that you're troubled by a situation. Then pause for a moment. Take a deep breath and choose the one that bothers you the least. That's right, pick the easiest of the fears you wrote down. If it feels like something that's far too simple or perhaps even a bit silly, that's the one. Circle it. Consider your fear. Ponder for a moment what you might do about that fear. If there's nothing you can do, simply encourage yourself to accept that you feel fear. That's a doable step, right? Accepting that you feel fear. And if there is something you can do, make notes on what those actions might be. Your action might be clear-cut, physical, do this, do that. Or perhaps what you need is to set aside some time to give thought to exactly what's bothering you about that situation where you feel from fear, and think through what, if anything, is possible for you to do about it. In many cases, you'll find that there's not much more you can do than accept your situation. Acceptance is a step that requires much patience, and yet recognizing that acceptance is your next step is exactly how to have patience with yourself. When you don't face fears, fear can become a repeating pattern that escalates. If you've had occasional heart-pounding fear, it probably didn't happen overnight. What steps are you willing to take to push fear out of your life? If you're able to write out a list, I encourage you to write down at least a few things. In fact, I encourage you to write down the 3 easiest troubles you're facing in terms of fear right now. That way, you can practice on simple, small, specific things. Practice leads you to see some kind of results, and such small successes lead you to be more patient and understanding with yourself. In my experience, as you get more skill in being patient with yourself, you relax. You trust yourself to deal with fear. And just that by itself gets you better at doing so. As I continue reaching out to help people grow, I've learned about the challenges that people face with fear. And indeed, recognize this. Fear is challenging, not just for you, but for everyone. And the good news is that you can learn to cope. You can learn how to be patient with yourself as you take steps to reduce fear and build resilience on a one-day-at-a-time basis. You'll soon find yourself growing as you face each challenge that fear presents to you, even if the only thing you're able to do is to accept that you feel that fear. These are steps towards resilience, steps that reduce fear. You can do it. By the way, do you want to learn more? If so, then join the email list here at software-enterprise.com. You get an instant gift and email training too that follows. Thanks so much for being here. This is Cynthia Ann Layton, owner of Software Enterprise Limited.